Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
8:37 on WMAL. Wilson and Neiman, Brian and Brian here on this Thursday morning. We're pleased to be joined by Tom Bevan, the Executive Editor of RealClearPolitics, also the co-founder of said website. For my money, the place where you got to go each and every day to find out what's really going on in the world of politics. Tom, always good to have you. How are you?
Great to be back, gentlemen.
All right, so you were out in Iowa with the President of the United States and saw some of this stuff firsthand. How was the President received there?
Pretty well, actually. I'm still in Iowa, actually.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I thought you were back.
In rainy Davenport. Yeah, I joined up for the last day of his bus tour. Actually, Michelle Obama joined him for the last two events in Dubuque and Davenport. And look, it was very well staged, decent crowds, very enthusiastic crowds, and he was energized, I think, by having his wife by his side. It really did sort of recapture a little bit of the magic. She spent time sort of thanking Iowa and reminiscing about their time here in 2008, and then he took the stage and really laid out, it was a pretty standard stump speech in some respects, but he did add the Medicare piece of it and really tried to highlight the difference between what he says, are the stakes of this election, his vision versus the Romney-Ryan vision.
Now, the crowds were pretty good-sized crowds, is that right?
Decent-sized crowds. I mean, the venues weren't huge, but, they were full.
All right, but in your reporting, haven't you suggested that perhaps, that there were a few cracks along the way in the support for the president out there?
Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, despite the picture-perfect scripting, and the Obama folks do a very good job of scripting all of these events, but there were some interesting little, anecdotes and side stories along the way. For example, the stop in Des Moines at the State Fair, the beer tent there, made for a great photo op, but the report that came out after, obviously, is that the owner of the beer tent wasn't thrilled with the fact that the president chose to shut him down, during his busiest time, and cost him somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000.
Wow, really?
Yeah, the event on day two at a wind farm, again, produced a picture-perfect photo op for the president. But after he left, the owner's son released a statement that said, basically, sort of excoriating Obama for his policies and saying he was out of touch with the middle class and his policies weren't good for business owners, small business owners, etc. And then in this final event here in Davenport yesterday, the press corps, these events are catered for the national press. You go to the File Center and they've got a catering operation set up there. And one of the gentlemen who was the co-owner of the deli that was catering the event was kind of a big guy, and he was wearing this big black T-shirt with big bold white letters that said, "Government didn't build my business, I did."
Oh, wow.
And of course, he got a lot of attention for that. But again, these were just kind of along the way.
Well,
these little anecdotes point to the fact that it is very competitive out here in Iowa. The president is here, as in other parts of the country. I mean, people are very divided over his reelection, and Republicans out here are energized, and you can see that despite the Obama campaign's best efforts to sort of script these events in a picture-perfect way.
Which is sort of what I've observed about the people in the Midwest when I've done my time in Iowa, and one of the things I always notice is that the people there have this sort of Midwestern decency about them. And while they may not agree with the president on any level, they're still going to go and look, and they're still going to show up to see what he's all about, and they're still going to be very polite to him, even though they would never, many of them, vote for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The beer tent owner said obviously it was an honor to host a president, and as did the wind farm owner. They're very gracious about it. They just, afterwards, it turns out they're Romney supporters, and they didn't make for the best script. Although I do have to say, Brian, I mean, it is pretty contentious out here. I mean, you saw Paul Ryan at the State Fair got heckled. There's a level of tension here that simply didn't exist a couple of years ago. And again, I think that goes not just in Iowa, but around the country. You see Republicans, the battle lines are really drawn. Obama supporters are very wholeheartedly behind him. Republicans have lined up pretty wholeheartedly behind Romney. And you've got this small slice of independents who really aren't paying attention at the moment. But so it's pretty tense out there. is what we're seeing.
We're talking with Tom Bevan of RealClearPolitics, also co-author of Election 2012: A Time for Choosing. On the Paul Ryan front, it was reported that Democrats are very, very happy that Mitt Romney chose Paul Ryan. I'm wondering if they're still happy about that, and whether or not Paul Ryan has made a difference, do you think, in some of the polls that have popped up? Is this just a bump that you normally get, or perhaps is there some staying power there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we don't know. I mean, there was a series of polls that came out yesterday in battleground states that showed a little bit of movement toward Romney in Florida and some of these other states. I mean, the race is definitely close. The other big news yesterday that potentially has an impact was this voter ID ruling in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Paul Ryan goes, I mean, it's one of those things that we won't actually be able to know with any certainty until we're looking at it in the rearview mirror. Democrats are thrilled. They think that Romney has provided them with a great gift and an opportunity to make the selection about Medicare and a lot of the issues that really shift the discussion in their favor. And Republicans are thrilled with the pick as well. I mean, he's a rock star. The guy's an up and comer, and he's very well liked and respected by the Republican base. So, we won't know. For both sides, it could be a case of careful what you wish for, because Democrats and Republicans both seem to think they've gotten what they wanted, and we just don't know how that's going to play out.
I look at RealClearPolitics' average of polls, which I think is a very accurate way of getting a sense of what's going on out there. But if you look at the most recent polls, especially these purple strategy polls that came out yesterday, do you detect a little bit of a bump because of Ryan?
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of movement toward, we're seeing a little bit also in the national poll. I mean, the Gallup tracking poll moved. It's Romney +2 now. Rasmussen, I think, is Romney +4. So the national picture has closed, and we are seeing in some of these state polls a little bit of a move toward Romney. Now, that obviously Paul Ryan is a big piece of this election, has been in the news. But there, it could also be a reaction to some of the other stuff that's been going on, some of the comments that have been made. I think that the negative tone of the campaign is potentially, very damaging for candidates, but Obama in particular, because he's the one who obviously promised not to engage in that sort of stuff. So, and it's been this Priorities USA ad about linking Romney to killing this woman, her death by cancer. Is also something that's out there that's continues to swirl around, and perhaps not in a good way for the president.
All right, Tom. Good to have you on the program as always. Thanks very much. Tom Bevan, co-founder, executive editor of RealClearPolitics, also the ebook author of Election 2012: A Time